Historically, there's always been a lot more engagement with it in Christian circles than in Jewish circles because it was kind of on the margins of the canon. There was always a lot of, the church fathers in late antiquity do write about Judith, and they do talk about her. The rabbis, they don't. They really don't talk about her at all. She just kind of the Book of Judith just fell out of Jewish discussion for hundreds of years. Ultimately, we do see a reemergence of discussion about, excuse me, about the Book of Judith in the Middle Ages, where people start writing midrashic treatments of the book. But there's just, she doesn't really appear in the Talmud. She doesn't appear in Josephus, like any of our usual suspects of ancient Jewish sources. She just, there's just not much on her.
How does that get picked up in the Middle Ages? Where does it come from that, they start treating it, and are they working with the text that was from the Second Temple era? Are they coming up with some sort of oral traditions and reworking it? What are the mechanics of all that?
So the person who I know of who's done the most work on this is a scholar named Deborah Levine-Guerra. So I'm going to refer to her work here. She's done a lot of work on the medieval Judith traditions. And what she says is that you've got a really changed text that emerges in the Middle Ages. It's a really different story. So this is where we actually come up with things like Judith as related to Hanukkah. There's nothing in the original Book of Judith that relates her to the Maccabees. The Maccabees are not mentioned, although you can maybe find some allusions to them if you're looking. But this connection of her to Hanukkah comes up in the Middle Ages. Additionally, we start seeing some rewriting of, well, is she a pious widow like she is in the original book? Or is she, a young virgin or something? We start seeing connections to her as possibly being a relative of the Maccabees, a sister or an aunt to Judah Maccabee. All these things, and the tradition about Judith plying Holofernes with cheese, which people talk about a lot associated with Hanukkah, that comes up in the Middle Ages too. That's not actually in the original text of Judith. The role that Judith takes and the text, it's pretty different. They just some of the medieval writers just take it and run in a real different direction.
It's really fascinating because it, impacts Jewish practice of having cheesy, goodness, cheesy cuisine.
Yeah. Which, why fight it if there's a holiday that says you need to eat fried things and also add some cheese? I'm not gonna take issue with that. But connecting it to Judith, it really is a medieval tradition and not actually going back to the Book of Judith from antiquity.